Oh man. Oh, it's good shit.
Hello, welcome to the Deion Farrington podcast. I am your host, Deion Farrington. We got a name, technically. I don't know, just Deion Farrington podcast. I'm kind of just sticking. It's like the boring way out. It's like throw your name in front of podcasts, and that's your podcast. I mean, it's not bad. Like when I eventually make it real big, it'll really be good to have my name plastered all over everything, but this is, everything's still subject to change. Also, I've been taking notes and, being real professional and shit. And that's it. I want to reduce the amount of per episode. That first episode wasn't terrible for the first one. There was a shit ton of and I didn't even do the intro. Kind of amateur is that, or at least I probably will have one. I'll probably just like edit one and toss it in front of that one. But either way, yeah, it's episode number 2. Some interesting stuff. Kind of want to dive into and chat today. One thing too is that a lot of these topics I can actually dive into. I'm going off of the kind of research I have already, and people have talked to experiences I've had, that kind of stuff. But I would like to dive into specific topics that really pique my interest, dive deeper into them, like do heavy research in them, and then come back in a follow up episode and really talk about those, figure out stuff I've learned, maybe compare it to what my initial opinion, my initial thought, and stuff like that was, and see if anything's changed. I think that'd be pretty interesting. But and probably as time goes on, a lot of the topics I'll bring on will just start out super heavily researched, but I figured out it would be a lot more natural. It'd probably be a lot more easy for me to start off if I dived into topics that I personally had more information about, and then I could branch off. That is the goal. Is I do want to. This podcast is a cool way, I believe, to for me to learn new stuff, for me to go out, really experience some of that knowledge that's out there, and then bring that and share that for you. So I think that's gonna be a really cool experience. I want to bring you along for me. So let's dive right in. So the first, I mean, the topics aren't exactly structured. I'm wondering that. I'll figure out a lot of stuff as I go. If I want to have the topics in a podcast be really centered around a particular topic. Like, for instance, the last podcast ended up being really focused around CRISPR and DNA editing. Pretty much the whole thing. It's like an hour and a half episode. And I don't know if I'm probably not always going to be able to continue on a particular topic for that long. So I think it logically makes sense that I kind of structure some of the episodes that have some kind of structure. Chaos is, I like working in chaos. I think it makes things a little bit more fun, keeps me on my toes, but I probably will structure at some point future episodes in a way so that they have kind of more cohesiveness around them. Although, to be fair, once I start diving in and doing really heavy research on certain topics, it'll probably be easy to ramble on for an hour on them, honestly. So, I don't know. We'll kind of figure stuff out as we go. That's kind of the fun of it, too, right? Just every episode kind of improving, adding new stuff, figuring out how to kind of push the envelope, and, little by little, and you'll get there for sure. Look at me being all motivational and shit. Uh, okay, so but speaking of that, I note down real quick that maybe I'll do it next episode. I don't want to dive into that quickly, but lucid dreaming. I don't know if anyone has ever experienced lucid dreaming before. Holy, like it's some crazy stuff, you know what I mean? And I, I don't know. I think there's definitely some people that's probably experienced lucid dreaming out there. As to whether you're listening to this particular episode of this particular podcast, I have no idea. Probably eventually, but But yeah, so lucid dreaming, I definitely dive into that. That is no lucid dreaming. That'd be something that's really cool to talk to someone that's dived into it, that actually has experience or some kind of research into that, or at least has experienced it to a point of almost experimentation, if you know what I mean. That'd be really cool because it's crazy. That's the kind of stuff that really makes you wonder, like, what is reality? You know what I mean? Anyway, so the first thing I want to dive into, I don't know, does it make sense to list off the topics at the beginning too, and then kind of, so that you kind of know, oh, okay, fuck these first three. Let me just skip to the ends. Or, I don't know. I'll kind of figure out what I guess I'll kind of want to do as I go on. But I guess I'll list off this time and just see. So the first thing I kind of want to dive into is microtransactions in gaming. So I don't know how many of you, if you do game, but the thing with gaming, right, is like a lot of other technology stuff, it's been evolving, which is good. Games nowadays are extremely detailed and huge and expansive compared to the games that I was playing when I was, very young growing up. More fun, that's where it starts getting a little bit a little bit debatable. There are definitely still lots of fun games coming out, but for instance, I definitely feel that the focus on graphics took away a lot of the emphasis on fun. It took away a lot of the focus on fun. It was still there, but it's like the game was expected to already be fun. So it was kind of getting hard, I guess, for these game companies to market their game primarily as just being fun. And honestly, fun, at least back in those early days, like say with domination of with Nintendo dominating and with the the PS2 and that kind of stuff, it was really standing out. It was being different, right? There is only one kind of Ratchet and Clank. There's only one Halo. There's only one like Uncharted. There's only one, you know, like Grand Theft Auto. Although some others tried, but it's just you really had to be unique and different. And maybe at some point, these game companies, it just got expensive to always be unique and always be different. I don't know, but something happened where basically the marketing changed to like, oh, look at our amazing open world game. Look at these huge mountains and expansive valleys and so much content. And most of the time, it was just shallow. It was just very, very shallow. And getting back to that whole fun thing, it just didn't feel fun. It was huge. Like, honestly, I remember, and this isn't to that point, this is almost the opposite. I remember when Skyrim first came out, and even if you don't game, you probably have heard of Skyrim because that game changed the lives of a lot of people, me included. That game was one of the first that came out, and it definitely wasn't the first open world, but it was the first that came out, and it felt like an open world that was actually worth exploring, almost all of it, to the point where it was almost too much to explore. Because you'd be like, oh, go please fetch me some water from the well around the corner. And you're like, yeah, okay, that can't be too hard. You just walk like 2 feet, and it's like, young warrior, the dragons have returned, save me. And it's like, Jesus Christ, okay, sure, I'll just help you real quick. And then next thing you know, you're like fighting a king for the throne of some underground like civilization of monkeys. I don't know. The game, maybe that was a mod, but either way, the game was really crazy. The game, but it's just one of those games that it packed content, and even though it felt random, you're like, there's no way. Like, I'm choosing where to go. I have free will, but it all lined up. We always ended up going through like 3 quests, and then it's, oh, somehow I'm really close to the end of other quests that I needed to do. It was weird, but I remember I was still hurt the souls of some real hardcore gamers. But I was gaming on a Mac at this point, and hear me out, hear me out. So I was initially in engineering, specifically construction engineering, and in that you have to use a lot of AutoCAD. So me being young and impressionable, um, I actually worked in like a few summers. I had interned at like I'm originally from the Bahamas, and the government agency there, the Ministry of Works and Tourism, that deals with stuff like building of public schools, building of roads, any kind of public government funded construction. They're the ones that kind of deal with it. So there's a lot of AutoCAD that's necessary for drawing this stuff up, and all the dudes using AutoCAD were rocking Macs. And one thing specifically, actually, though, because I don't even want to get into that. What's gonna be funny is just as I go, I'm just gonna be writing down additional topics for future episodes because it's probably a good idea. But man, I hate Apple. And like, I know you're like, oh, rolling your eyes, like, oh, another Android fanboy just hating. But I'm like in the hipster Android fanboy, which maybe makes it worse. But I got in Android games super early. I had the Samsung Galaxy One, and it wasn't called the S1 because it was the first one. It was just the Galaxy S. That's how freaking old, ancient I am in the technology. And from then, I already could tell that Apple was pulling some sneaky tactics I just wasn't a fan of, and I just couldn't get behind. So I did not like Apple for a very long time ago. However, the one thing that kind of convinced me to really step into that world of getting that MacBook, and it was like $1,200. That shit was expensive. Like, like if I knew better. Like I didn't get a gaming PC, and I always wanted one. I didn't get a gaming PC, or I didn't build, I should say, my first gaming PC until like probably 5 years after that, and that was more than enough money to get a gaming PC and probably a cheap laptop. Poor me back then. But I got it because one of the engineers that I work with at the time, he had something on his Mac called Boot Camp. And for any of you people that are Mac people, you may know that Boot Camp essentially allows you to run natively Windows on your Mac, which is a really cool thing for a company like Apple that I feel, especially against Windows related stuff, tries to screw them over. But this was like built into Macs, fully supported. I mean, there were definitely some issues and things you had to work around, but you could essentially get full Windows, and it kind of worked that you'd boot up directly into Windows, right? So it isn't like a parallel desktop where you have Mac, and then while you're running Mac, it runs Windows. You're actually booting into Windows. So Windows has full access to all your Mac's hardware and drivers. Really cool. So because of this, I essentially justified in my mind that I would get a Mac and I would use the Mac side of things for all of my school related stuff. So AutoCAD, my drawing, just, and I also like to keep organized. I just keep all my school related stuff on the Mac side. And then there you go again. And then I would basically use the Windows side for gaming, whatever. And I assume Macs were supposed to be powerful, so they should be fine. Is and just end results, Macs are not good for gaming. If you think that's gonna be something you might do often, don't get it. Even with the boot camp, I actually don't get laptops in general, but I did get a decent laptop after that Mac kicked the bug. Which I need to tell that story at some point. How like just the bullshit I went through just to get my Mac. I all started with getting my Mac's power cable exploded on me, which probably happened to most Mac people out there, and the replacement's like $100 fucking bucks. What is that? And then some other stuff exploded in my Mac, and then I went on kind of an excursion to fix it myself, which I did, but left my Mac in not a good state. So I'll dive into that story at some point. But regardless, I did not like Apple very much from back in the day, but I got the MacBook because using Boot Camp, I figured it would be able to work. So, reason why that's kind of important is that that's the period when Skyrim came out. And for any of you that know Skyrim as a game, even on the lowest of settings, that's a tough game to run. It's very graphically intensive. So, what's funny though is I specifically remember a period of time where Skyrim ran moderately, reasonably okay-ish on the Mac. I mean, it passed. It was like 20, 25 frames. Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. But after that, I went down to like 10 afterwards. For some reason, it never recovered. It just shit the bed. I don't know. But, it was such a amazing experience because I just remember I was back home at the time, back in the Bahamas. And when Skyrim came out and I was playing it, it was just a game that I would literally wake up in the morning looking forward to playing, right? It's like I'd wake up, and if I woke up earlier than I usually would wake up, like maybe I wake up like around 7, 8 o'clock, something like that. If I woke up like 6:30, I was happy. I was like, yes, buddy, yes, teamwork. Screw dreaming. Well, like, screw rest. What is that? And granted, I just went to bed at probably 3:30 for like the morning or like that same morning. But I'm like, yes, because I could play some more Skyrim. Like, it probably was a mini obsession for a point, just going through and playing a shit ton of Skyrim on this MacBook that I was running Windows on. It was a struggle, but it was worth it. So that was a really good game, but not many open world games had that kind of quest density, and just like the world was beautiful, even on the shitty graphics where the trees are like, you know, these paper mache type nonsense floating airily in the sky. Like people's faces are just blurs of oatmeal, and like these pinprick little eyes. Well, they'll still fuck you up for no reason. Like oh, those days. You went through anything just to get that high of a fun gaming experience, though. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Not many games really had that. So the reason I kind of built that up is that there was this point where games were fun because there just wasn't that much graphically to work with. So you still wanted to make the art style interesting, but there's not too much you can do on the PS2 back then. I mean, granted, the PS2 was kind of one of the better things to work on, but a lot of my time at that point too was spent on handhelds as well. So you can't do much with the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color. You can't do much with the DS, like graphically speaking. Um, it really wasn't until the 360, the Xbox 360, and the PS3, along with the PSP, that you started pushing the envelope on the graphic side of things. But that's basically when companies started honing in on that. They were like, oh, graphically, and it wasn't bad at first because honestly, when all your graphics were shit, it's really easy to beat your last shit. But even if you still release shit, as long as it's better shit, like from the perception, it's amazing. So there was like, new Gran Turismo's coming out, new Grand Theft Auto's coming out, new just everything coming out actually looked fucking amazing compared to I remember, I always tell this story back when Call of Duty was actually good, right? And maybe some people, oh, Call of Duty is fine. No, Call of Duty is complete shit right now. It just went all so downhill, and you can call me a bitter old young guy or whatever, but it's just went downhill, and now they're trying to salvage, but it's too late. It's too late. But back when I was playing Black Ops, Black Ops was a good fucking game. And I remember me and my buddy, or my roommate at the time, chilling on the couch playing this. And it was the game that when it came out, I was stuck in class. Like, fuck that. I could either go to freaking quantity surveying and do a shit ton of math, or you can play New Call of Duty. New Call of Duty every time. Kids skip school for video games. No, just joking. I don't want to get blamed for any. There probably shouldn't be kids listening to this. That's probably a disclaimer I should put somewhere. It's like, if you want your fucking kids to be listening to this, I mean, it'll be good. They're gonna learn some shit, but they're gonna really learn some shit that you might want them to wait a couple decades. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe people are just liberal as fuck nowadays. It's like, oh yeah, my 3-year-old can learn about joints. So, yeah. I don't know. Weed's about to be legal next year in Canada. So, we're gonna see, there's really gonna be a generation that grows up around legalized marijuana. They think not legal, but they think technology probably should be illegal in some form. They think technology, growing up around technology is going to be bad. Oh, growing up around a shit ton of weed, I mean, but it's legal, so you'd be like, oh, just hide it from the kid. How? I literally, like, you can grow plants, and you can smoke. You pretty much have to smoke indoors, because the rules are ridiculous. I'm going to definitely do some more episodes on marijuana. I'm definitely going to dive in, but anyway, back to the story, assuming I can remember. What was I saying? I don't know. I'll eventually get good at like writing this shit down as I kind of go, or recording this shit in and go. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, so the game with like, yeah, the Call of Duty, right, and the Black Ops and the roommate. Yeah, see, that's not any recognizable accent, but anyway, I remember sitting on the couch with my roommate and like we're playing Black Ops. And for those of you who are not too familiar with Black Ops or Call of Duty in general, there's these things called kill streaks. So basically, you kill enough people in a row, you get this like power up you could use. That's like get a powerful gun or a plane that comes and support you, or maybe just something that a radar shows everybody on the map. That kind of like military shit. You know what I'm saying? And there's this thing called a napalm strike, which was basically a plane came in and just fucked up everybody in a line with hot fire. Why have to emphasize it's hot? I don't know. But it was some hot fucking fire. And that fire was lit. But no, it was lit as fuck though, because like we're sitting on this couch looking at it, and it comes through. We call it, and we're both on the roof. It comes through. We're just looking at it, and it just looked fucking gorgeous. It was amazing. Our jaws are dropping, probably high as fuck, but we were just there, like, holy fuck, this is amazing. Like, this looks so good. And it's not often that happens when you literally stop in the middle of a live online game to admire the effects in said online game. It was amazing. That pretty much never happened again. And I did play a bunch more Call of Duties after that. Just, it ain't there. It ain't there. You do have this sometimes with some of the open world games. Problem though is that it wears off real quick. It wears off real quick. And that's kind of what I was initially diving into. So now the segue makes sense, right? That 15-minute segue. But like that, that open world thing that they're focusing on now, where it's a big world, but it's just not. It's like, I'll give you some examples. Like, I think it was Tom Clancy's Wildlands, like Ghost Recon Wildlands, something like that. it wasn't bad. It's just after literally an hour or 2 hours, you pretty much have seen everything. It just doesn't get the experience doesn't elevate from there. And maybe that's just the problem with open world games inherently, right? Is that it's open. There's no structure, so they can't control where you go. I don't really think that's exactly true, but I'll touch on that in a second. Um, they can't really control where you go, so they kind of have to make everything even or equal. You know what I mean? They have to make it so that, oh, if you go any one of these directions, you're basically getting kind of the same experience. Or maybe you'd start off going in the wrong way and you get a fucked up experience because you shouldn't technically have went that way yet, but they can't really control you because it's open. You know, that kind of stuff. However, I do feel that it's kind of fine in a way. I miss those games where you go in a world and it is open, and basically there's places that if you go, you get fucked up, right? It's like you just cannot hurt the things there or the one shot you. I mean, even better if you technically can go through if you're skilled enough, but it's better if you go grind up, get some weapons, some armor levels, that kind of stuff, and then go in. But I think it's perfectly fine to be able to have a world that's open, go wherever you want. Certain areas are less challenging based on what you have or do. It's like maybe there's an underwater level, and yeah, going in the underwater level without any kind of equipment is hard because you can't hold your breath that long. Get some oxygen tanks, and it's way better. But you should be able to beeline to the oxygen tanks if you know that it's possible if you're skilled enough, and then go into the water place maybe, get some weapon in there, some fucking scepter shit, and then you can use that to fuck up the desert people. You know what I mean? I think that I forgot who was talking about it. Let's see if I try to remember. Uh, no, I can't really remember, but some game designer. Oh, I think it was the game designer or the lead developer for PUBG. I think he was on a podcast with H3H3 on YouTube, like the H3 podcast. And basically, he was just talking about level design. He was saying how level design is underrated in games, and I do believe it. I think he was more talking about that maybe tight knit competitive thing, because obviously players battleground, underground, whatever the fuck. PUBG is that game does have a like level design is very important, impactful part of it. So I could see where he's coming from, and I do agree that level design is really underestimated. These like some of those initial calls they were talking about. I think CS:GO maps, for instance, for sure. Those Call of Duty people that were there on those early days. I can't really remember the early ones because I really started playing like the first game I owned. I think it was like Modern Warfare 2. And I played a little bit before that, but it was like World of War, something like that. But the real game the one I really got into was Modern Warfare 2 and like Black Ops 2, I think, and you know that there's like an era in there. Modern Warfare 3 was probably in there too. Um, those maps on Modern Warfare 2 were iconic. You know, they were just built so well. Like we all know the sniper map, the big open wasteland map, that was just amazing for sniping with a little middle bunker. We all know about Rust, that really tiny map, or like Nuketown, those tiny maps that were just great for immediate action. You know, we all know those maps that had the verticality or had that those open fields with like two opposing buildings or camping areas to duke out it. Those maps were amazing. And I'm not saying the maps design nowadays are terrible. It's just I feel like they've been lost behind things like here are the shiny stuff you can get. Here's all the cosmetics and the weapon skins, and those were there, but like the weapon skins back in the year to get like 1,000 headshots on the fucking sniper to get those dope ass skins. It was hard. Now it is expensive, right? It's just a different time. So that's why kind of diving into now this topic about microtransactions. Again, those of you that are familiar with gaming would probably have heard about this. Even if you aren't, I think it was on some pretty big news because Disney even got a little bit involved with this whole microtransaction debacle with Star Wars Battlefront 2. And honestly, I don't know. It's really bad the point at which gaming has gotten nowadays. As someone that grew up as a really hardcore gamer, as someone that grew up passionately loving games, always searching for new games to play, enjoying the experience of finding and falling in love with a new game. I don't know if you remember the Final Fantasy Tactics games. It started out on I don't even know. The first one I played was on Game Boy Advance, but they had on PSP, and it was like PSP is so underrated. I'm gonna write that shit down, right? Because the you know, like the PSP was so underrated, and the PS Vita is the biggest disappointment of all time. I want to do an episode just talking about how these underrated video games and how the potential that they had. Like the PSP was just fucking amazing. And not even just a gaming system. It was essentially the smartphone before the smartphone. The only thing the PSP couldn't do, and granted, it probably could have with enough modding, because heaven knows you could mod the shit out of that thing. The only thing I couldn't do was call. But like the music experience, the media experience of watching movies, the gaming experience, the UI, everything was just so good. It was so good, right? It was amazing. So, PSP ended up being like really huge. But back in those days, you really just focused on what was fun and discovering new stuff. Now it's just with this whole thing with microtransaction, it's essentially seeing that from the game, because I don't think the gamers, right, the me and the potentially you and like the actual gamers, I don't feel what we've wanted has changed that much. I feel what we've maybe been willing to accept might have changed. But what we wanted, I don't know. I feel we still want fun games. We still, well, we didn't not want it back then because it didn't happen. We don't want to get our asses torn open with these terrible deals and unnecessary like DLC and season pass and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It just seems it's really like why is it that the gamers don't seem like what they want has really changed, but for the game company though, they're a company, so they want to make money, obviously, but they're going from making a fun game and assuming that a fun game will, because it's fun, will thus bring money. I don't know if that was disproven, maybe, but I don't think so. But they moved from that mindset to an okay game is still fine, and then we can get away with more money grabbing tactics. And I don't get how it managed to be successful, because it is. I don't think they'd continue doing it if it wasn't successful. And they're getting worse and worse and more brazen and more bold every year. So I have to assume that at someone's perception of success is being met, maybe even exceeded by these microtransactions, these sneaky tactics. But I guess let me back up a bit and just dive into what microtransaction even is. So basically, I think a lot of this started in the mobile gaming scene. And it's really funny because I haven't heard it being said, but I wouldn't be surprised if a narrative eventually develops that mobile gaming ended up being one of the worst things that have happened to the modern gaming scene. Now, that's a pretty bigish kind of statement, but I don't know. I just feel that there was already a kind of stigma or perception from what I'd call the typical gamer or the true gamer, like say pre-smartphone gamer. Maybe that's a better way to refer. The pre-smartphone gamer doesn't really consider a mobile gamer as a real gamer. If your primary console for gaming on is a phone, a smartphone, it's just you're not really considered as a gamer. And honestly, I don't think you really were in the early days. Can we really equate, I don't know, 5 hours a day of Angry Birds, which is still a shit ton? Can we equate 5 hours of hours a day of Angry Birds to 5 hours a day of Call of Duty? Or, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I definitely didn't like nowadays. I've changed my stance a bit, but that's kind of because I ended up um being invited over to Korea as a part of my previous company, and that really gave me exposure to essentially a culture that mobile gaming is there. There is no console gaming, right? So I've definitely seen how mobile gaming could be gaming, but that's not what like the Western world and that kind of stuff. That's not how we treat gaming. Our gaming is generally way more casual. So I think it's very hard to consider the typical mobile gamer, the person that mainly plays, the Clash of Clans, the Clash Royale, the Candy Crush, the Angry Birds, if that's even still a thing. Primarily, like you could definitely still play those as well. But I don't know if that's the primary thing if you're considered a gamer. Like most people that game primarily on console or PC wouldn't think so, at least in my opinion. So with that, this whole sneaky microtransaction thing essentially started in the mobile scene. What it essentially is let's say you're playing something like, because I actually haven't played the Clash games. I stayed away because I was like, fuck, like literally, I had my old roommates all dropped like 10, $20 in like the first couple of months playing that thing. They're addictive, and it is literally starting to see studies come out where they're debating or proposing that there are psychological they're literally taking advantage of the human susceptibility and psychology around addiction and the reward centers that humans have and have built essentially for survival, taking advantage of that to drastically increase their profits, and it's being hugely successful. But it's also not really being challenged that much for how much it's kind of the thing that like you talk to a lot of people and they're like, yeah, I know that's what they're doing, but not a lot of people are really attacking this or pushing to see what can happen in reverses. But anyway, so back to what it actually is. You're in a game, and you're in a game, and these games are free, right? You go on a mobile game, it's free because essentially there was this, and that's another topic that I'll definitely want to look into, is kind of the history of mobile apps and like their quality, you know what I mean? Because in the early days, apps were fucking garbage, especially on Android. They were garbage, right? So because these apps were garbage, people essentially got used to, like, no one would pay for your garbage. So because so much people are putting out garbage, because everything's garbage, so even if you put out garbage, as long as your garbage is better than the garbage out there, it's not that bad. So the quality increased just slowly. the quality, like the first couple of years, were garbage. So at least on Android, people didn't pay a lot for apps, and even on iPhone, there's just a cap. I think apps over $5 are basically laughed at even nowadays. No one pays $20 for an app. You can. Having, in my previous company, we were we built an application, and the quality level of that, and, obviously I may be a bit biased, but the quality level of that has desktop level quality, or the time is similar to that put in a desktop level application. You can make, but it was free, right? We had to keep it free because that's the perception. You can make a $20 mobile app, right? You can make a mobile app that is not just priced. You can make a mobile app that is worth $20. If you pay $20 for this on desktop, you can make it available on mobile. But nobody would ever pay $20 for it, right? They'd pay $20 for it on desktop or on web, and then download the mobile app for free. But no one's gonna pay $20 for just a mobile app. So essentially, most mobile apps just are free because that stigma kind of was built up in the early days because apps were so trash. And now it's like, even though you can make very high quality apps now, the technology has progressed more than far enough. You can't pay for it. And of course, most of the biggest apps in the world, all the social apps, the banking apps, the sports apps, they're all free. So no one's gonna really pay. So because of that, same with gaming. There are a lot of games nowadays that are coming out in a free, and I prefer that. Which is probably the console and PC gamer part of me talking, but I prefer to just, pay for a game, and that's it. I have everything, and that's fine if I have to unlock stuff in the game through difficulty and through playing the game and having fun like I should. I'm fine with that, right? I don't want to have things spoon fed to me. If there needs to be a way to have things spoon fed, toss in cheat codes like back in the old days. But I don't need to have, oh, you can play our game or pay $3 to play less of our game. Like, how does that, But regardless, a lot of people apparently don't share that opinion. So, these game developers, mobile game developers, make their game free, and then they recoup their money by in-app or in-game purchases. Okay, that's fine in theory because you get the game for free, you dive into it, you start playing it, you see whether you like it or not. You can usually, if it's built properly, you can usually get through the first couple of levels or whatever it is, and have the full experience of the game. That's how that should be. And then as you kind of continue and go, so if you're kind of doing say the trial route, you get that full experience of the game, and then you reach a point where it's like, okay, you need to pay if you want to continue. There's that model, so you still download it for free. It's just once you hit a certain point in the game, like say there's 10 chapters in the game, after chapter 2, you have to pay, right? And it should be effective because you get attached to your character, and you can tell if you play the whole 2 chapters, chances are you'd like to continue. Or you have it where you can play, and they say you can still play the full game. Like say the other model where it's not a trial, it's completely free in real heavy quotes, like bolded, italics, Times New Roman, all that good shit. But the game is built in a way so that you effectively either have energy, time, or difficulty. I believe that's how it's typically broken down into. So with the time or energy one, it's kind of self-explanatory, but it's like you can only play 1 level per hour, say, to make it easy, or 1 level every 20 minutes, right? Or maybe it's something like you can play, or no, the time one say that I kind of one that was pretty common a few years ago is these games like say Sunset Island Paradise or something, where you'd want to build like a resort. So you place a building down, and then the building will generate money, but it generates money like every hour or so. So you basically have to come out to the game every hour to click on the building, basically just to recoup your money. And it doesn't keep going. So it's like if you wait 3 hours, well, there's 2 hours your building wasn't generating money because you have the old money there waiting. So it almost forces you to come back and click, keep paying, keep clicking, um, to get this money. So, or to get the money from in game at least. And then you can usually pay to get things sped up. So maybe you pay for a booster so that instead of an hour, everything only takes 20 minutes, right? Or even better, you pay for an auto collector so that for the next 12 hours, all money you get will be auto collected. So you're very efficient, right? But then that costs $3. And it's like, you don't really think about it because it's not something you really even start off with. You ignore it. But then when you reach a point that you're deep in the game, you're getting your buildings like leveled up and you're starting to get some money, but it's just annoying that you have to open this up every 1 hour just to be optimized. So, like, yeah, it's just a little $3 and get all this money. And it's just $3 so that I can get this building upgrade to get to the next level. Like, it's really, I wouldn't say subtle nowadays at least, but it's built in a way so it's very sequential, and it's built so that it slowly eases you into the point where you more and more have to rely on the payment methods as a source of beating stuff. And really, if you're the kind of person that doesn't dive too much into a game, you just play and you get bored easily, you'll be fine. You'll probably get bored of the game long before then. It's the people that are used to being able to complete or like play a game and get experience and get good. A lot of these games are built in a predatory way so that you're not able to get good without having spent some money, or it just takes you so fucking long. And sure, they can use the excuse that, well, you can get everything in the game for free, but if it takes you like 6 months and you have to open the app multiple times a day, every day, I'm not going to do that for 6 months. So it is theoretically possible to get it for free, but it's not practically possible. And that's kind of the preying thing, the preying way that they get you on mobile. So that's kind of how microtransactions worked in the mobile scene. But they were justified because it's free. They have to make money somehow, right? So they get away with a lot of this kind of scummy crap. And some of the top mobile games in the world are like, you'd be so shocked to know how much money some of the top grossing apps in countries like Korea are making. Right? I'm talking about the orders of billions in a week that some of these companies are making. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. And a lot of it is through these predatory tactics that gets you hooked, gets you engaged, and then throws a price gate in your face. And by that, like, I'll give you an example. And I'm not too afraid or too ashamed to admit it because I got out, thankfully, but I dropped probably like, maybe $100-200 on this game. It was called Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. It's on mobile. And I was always a huge Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan growing up. I had a deck of like 200 cards, some ridiculous, back home. And we'd have like Yu-Gi-Oh! Battles after school, like in primary school behind the building, and we'd be like trading cards. It was serious shit. I was like the drug trades and shit, the black market back when I was in primary school and thing. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Was always a big thing for me. So when I heard that, oh, they have Yu-Gi-Oh! On mobile, and I don't know how much people are like this. I'm kind of weird in that I always, not always really, I guess there's some exceptions, but most of the time when I'm playing a game, I'm playing it for the multiplayer. I don't know why. Call of Duty, there's probably only like two Call of Duties, maybe only one that I've ever played through the campaign with. And that's probably because they had split screen co-op. So, I like someone else wanted to play and I'm like, I never played it before. Yeah, let's go through. But I just generally don't like playing campaigns. I'm really bad at that kind of stuff. I really uh, lean towards multiplayer only or primarily multiplayer games. And because of that, one of the criteria typically for me getting into a game is popularity or population. Like I don't want to get into a multiplayer game then no one's playing. It's like there's this game called Planetary Annihilation, which is a real-time strategy game. Looked fucking amazing, and I got like all my room. It was on sale, so maybe it wasn't the biggest loss, but I got all my roommates and shit at the time to download it. And essentially, the premise was just it's if you know real-time strategy, like if you know StarCraft or Age of Empires, something like that. It's that game, that kind of game, but it takes place on planets in a solar system. And, players can spawn on the same planet, they can spawn on different planets, and there's this cool system around like fights on your own planet, traveling to other people's planets to fight them, and then even using planets against each other. Like you can build things on planets that shoots them into other planets or into the sun. Sounds cool as fuck, right? Except apparently it was on Kickstarter, and a lot along with a bunch of other stuff like that on Kickstarter, mismanaged, ended up not reaching its full potential at all. Devs, dragged the foot on a lot of shit, and it died. So by the time I got into it, I got a couple good games with my roommates. They got bored of it. I was like, okay, matchmaking, and there was like 3 people online, and it's just so depressing that at that point I dived in hard. I was like, well, and I always do this with games that I get into, which is probably why I like multiplayer games, because a lot of them have skill based. But I like watch YouTube videos and tutorials and read articles and shit about like strategies and build orders. And I found like mods that made the game really cool. I was so hyped around it. I actually thought that it wasn't a terrible game. It was rough around the edges and a little raw in the middle, and it was like a little bit of dirt. I think someone maybe dropped it, but it still was good. And I don't know, it was disappointing. So after that scarred me a bit more, because there was a few games I've had like that where I got into them just way too late. And I tell you, like my last company it's called GamerLink. Really cool company, it's still going. I just sadly had to move on. New things came up, and I wasn't able to continue sadly. But great company. Co-founder's doing a good job, and they're doing good. So, but the company was literally based around helping to connect gamers, like help gamers find other gamers to play with for situations like this, because it's such a huge difference between getting into a game, even if it's really old, and having people to play with, and getting into it and there's just no one. It's like, guess I'll just gather dust in my library. Ritual dust. But anyway, so back to the original one, Duel Links. So this Yu-Gi-Oh game. So, Yu-Gi-Oh game looks pretty good. Like, I'm going on the subreddit, there's activity, the devs are like releasing shit every couple of weeks, and they're very active. I like that shit. Another game, not associated with any of these, by the way, if anyone's like, shilling out to the big game companies. No, you just promote shit, or I talk about shit that I think is good. It's technically kind of promoting, but whatever. I wish I got paid for some of this shit. But Fortnite is apparently another game similar to the one I mentioned before, PUBG. It's developed by Epic Games, which they've made some other good games. I think they're responsible for the Unreal Engine. So, just responsible for like one of the best gaming engines of all time, and their developers are fucking on point. I love that about a game or any software. That's what I always want to aspire to be like: is reactive, engage with the community, giving the people what they want. Because that's all we want, right? Give the people what they want. So Duel Links, I was in a similar boat. It was getting a lot of attention. It was growing rapidly. So I hopped in. The problem is that once you dive in a little bit, you realize that, and it's a card game, right? So if you don't have experience with these kind of card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone, Solitaire, maybe not the last one so much, although I feel it was like a shitty pay-to-win Solitaire that was like on fucking the Windows Game Store, if anyone uses that. But anyway, so this game, if you're not familiar with card games, essentially you get you build a deck, right, of the cards that you have, and usually you start off with pretty shitty cards, to be expected. To get more cards, they have things called packs. Or to be more specific, well, yeah, it is the packs, because you open a pack, and a pack of cards gives you 3. But a pack is a part of a box of cards. And if you want to get a specific card in a specific pack, not only do you have to open that pack that contains it, but you have to open it randomly from the box it's contained in. And the small boxes would contain, I think, around 80 packs. So worst case scenario, and when you paid, I think you paid about $1.50 to open 3 of these packs in a box. So you'd open 3 packs at a time, which basically means you're getting 9 cards at a time. But one of the mini packs, or boxes rather, would have 80 packs. Right? So I don't know, what is the fucking math? Let's do some quick math here. 8 divided by 3. So you're looking at around 26 packs. Well, 27, because you can't have an empty box. So 27 times you need to open these boxes. You need to open packs in these boxes. Worst case scenario, this is to get all of them. You could get super lucky and get the card you're looking for in the first pack. You pretty much never do, because cards have different rarities. There's also duplicates of the less rare cards. So basically, you end up getting a crap ton of garbage with like one good thing every now and then. And it's like, you get that good thing just often enough so you want to toss some more money and get some more packs. And what you're thinking is like, oh, that's awful. So you can only get it through money? Why? How does this game even stay alive? How does this game exist with such a shitty, predatory business model? Well, just like the whole time nonsense, you can get these packs for free, quote unquote. But to do it, you have to acquire these gems. How do you get these gems? Well, you get them from basically having card battles against what they call the duelist in the game, or the other, like the AI or NPCs in the game. Okay, that's not bad. So you fight NPCs, you get these gems, and then you can use well, you don't even get the gems. You fight the NPCs just to get these keys, and these keys are what you would use to. Okay, I'm not even gonna dive. Like, this game was actually fucking awful. The more I dive in, I'll just try to focus on the gem part, because there was actually 2 predatory things going on at once. The gem part, basically, the only way to get gems was you would level up. So obviously, in the first, I think they had like 40 levels. The first 10 levels were a breeze. So you're leveling up all the time, literally just playing the game. You're getting gems. You're spending it on card packs. It's all a fun time. Once you reach like, upper level 20s, it's hard as fuck. And at this point, you're playing against maybe other people who've been playing it much longer than you. The AI itself is getting harder to fight. You need better cards. But you're not getting new cards and new gems at a rate fast enough to replenish the trash cards in your deck. So what do? And then what makes this all, the reason I was kind of mentioning the duelist is that to fight the duelist, there's unlimited. There's like 8 you can fight, and every time you fight them, they respawn in time. So if you fight all 8, which will probably take like say like 10 minutes maybe, the they take like 2 hours or 3 hours or something ridiculous to all respawn back. So you literally throughout the day have to be like fighting all these things and then doing something and then coming back and fighting all these duelists, and it was ridiculous. It was actually ridiculous. So because of that, because of the difficulty of getting these gems, which were the free currency to buy these card packs, and because they frequently had pretty affordable sales, which means absolute trash because you're still spending money, but at least compared to, it's almost like they took it from unreasonable to what it should be. And it's so tempting to just, just get a few packs when the price is what it should fucking be, you know? I don't know. It was bad. So that game, again, my love of Yu-Gi-Oh, my competitive nature. Also at the time, I was just thirsty as fuck for a new game to fall in love with, right? It's just there weren't much good. Again, this was like coming off of the whole Pokemon Go stuff, I feel too. There just wasn't a good game in general, I felt, that I wasn't burnt out of and that I enjoyed. So it was the thing is that it's a decent game, right? They actually changed the game in a way to make it pretty good for the mobile experience, but the predatory stuff are garbage. So a bit of off tangent there, but that kind of just shows the example of the predatory stuff going on in mobile. Again, though, this game is free. Does it mean anything if I end up paying $200 at the end of it? They try to say yes, because I didn't have to. I try to say you kind of have to if you even want to play the game, or you just get frustrated and give up on a game you actually enjoyed. I don't know. It's kind of bullshit. But now what's happening is that bullshit has migrated and is being implemented in full-blown, if you're lucky, $60 games, because in Canada it's $80. So full-blown $80 games are having this microtransaction nonsense where effectively the game is built in a way so that it's very difficult for you to enjoy or fully play the game's full experience without at least dipping in a little bit of money. And the worst part is that there's almost a thing where it has to be all or nothing. Well, hope not all. I don't want anyone like mortgaging their house, selling their cars, peddling crack, just fucking play some of these games. But I mean, if it continues, that's probably where it's gonna be. But the problem with these games is that they're just like it's full blown $80 games, and they're built in a way so that you can't get the full experience if you don't pay for these games, and because of that, it kind of has this all or nothing kind of experience with it, where you either have to spend no money at all and just be completely clean. Just don't give in to temptation. Just say, I'm gonna play this game 100%, grinding out, do whatever it takes, and if the grind gets too much, I just give up. And it's just rough that you almost have to limit yourself. Because again, a lot of times you don't get the full experience. You don't get all the weapons and the armor and fancy stuff that actually can help improve your experience. Before, it used to just be cosmetic. Now it's to the point where you're missing out on experience type stuff because of this. But you can either say, I'm gonna abstain completely and not get in bed at all with this demon, these monetization demons, or you do spend a tiny bit of money, and then the minute you spend money, it's like, well, I put in a shit ton of time probably to justify the money or enough. I've also put in some money. A little bit more is not bad. A little bit more, and and then you just go down the slippery slope of, you've put in time and money. You might as well enjoy this, and the more you want to enjoy this, the more you're gonna have to put in money, because that's how they build it. It's really shitty. It's a really terrible, terrible experience that I do hope dies a horrible death in the gaming community. And I think this was a good year for exposing it. It's getting worse and worse over the last couple of years, but the issues with Destiny 2, I think, apparently had some terrible stuff. Star Wars Battlefront 2 had some terrible issues. Even like sports games, apparently, like pretty much everything EA touches, apparently. And not even in a joking way. Apparently, EA is actually on a mission to put microtransactions in these monetary stuff in all of the games they make from now on, which is awful that that company can even exist with that kind of mindset. And the consumers aren't at their doors with pitchforks, burning laser pitchforks, just, protesting. I don't, because obviously, like, pitchforks can be boring nowadays. Come on. You need advanced pitchforks, at least. I don't know. These microtransactions are really awful, and I think they are gonna keep getting worse because they have just been keep getting worse, and people have just been accepting it, and they're okay with it, and they're just dealing with it. I don't know. But anyway, I really hope that this is something that can change, and that will. I think it will. I think it's gonna reach a breaking point. I myself have personally not been gaming as often because it's like every game I get hyped on, it just turns out that, and obviously they're not promoting any microtransaction shit beforehand, right? I just end up being hyped around a game and I was like, ah, shit, it's gonna try to fuck me over. So, I just essentially have to approach every game with caution. Now, it's at the point where I'm getting back to old games. I think at the beginning of this podcast I was mentioning Final Fantasy Tactics. I've been playing like that game on a PSP emulator. I've been diving into some really old games. It's crazy. It's really crazy that the stuff that the changes that have happened with my gaming life. Like I'm playing fucking uh Crusader Kings 2, and I don't even know what I was playing the other day. And these are all good games, but that's kind of the whole point is that these games that are 10, 20 years old, I'm going into and I'm reliving, and it's not fun. It's, some people might say, "Oh, you're just looking through rose-colored glasses? Is that it?" I don't know. I think rose-colored glasses are actually pretty dope. But regardless, looking through those, and it's like, you just think it's fun, but no, I'm going back into this game, and I am having fun. And I mean, I'm putting in 10, 20, 30 hours into these old ass games. You know why? Because they look like shit, but they're still fun. And that's what I think is really missing in the games nowadays. I really hope it comes, not all games, obviously. It's not just black and white. Nintendo's doing a great job this year, or they did a great job this year with releasing really good, highly acclaimed, enjoyable games. And there have been fun games that have come out with all this crap going on, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel next year might be decent. Personally, there's this game called Monster Hunter World. So Monster Hunter is personally my favorite gaming series of all time. I think secondly followed by Red Dead Redemption, which isn't a gaming series, but is a game that I'm worried because of what happened to GTA, Rockstar's gonna fuck up the next. Is Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out, I think, next year. That's gonna get fucked up because of microtransactions. So I can't even get excited for my second favorite game of all time. Like the sequel to it. That to me is disappointing. Because gaming has gotten to a point where these greedy fuckers are just trying to get all our money. And I would pay more money for these good games. Because I'm not getting some of these games at all. I cannot fathom. I know it's some shit. Some real shit's going on in these boardrooms for this to be going on. I cannot fathom how they're justifying this. Like, there has to be wars between the people that are building this stuff that they passionately love and their names are attached to, but they have to muddy with shady monetary tactics, and the people that feel these monetary tactics are justified. There has to be some war going on between them. I don't see how they're able to fucking I don't see how they're able to cooperate in a business and efficiently build up an effective following when they're so greedy minded. I don't know. But anyway, I do hope that these things will change. But yeah, I was briefly mentioning Monster Hunter World. That game's gonna be amazing. That game's gonna be amazing. And that's the game that I am excited for because it's one of the few game developers. It's made by Capcom. I know that they're gonna do a good job. They've put out a shit ton of content already. They already have the beta available. They have tons of people reviewing it, giving them feedback. It's one of the few you ever have those games where they it's almost kind of like where you have your favorite artist, like a singer or a rapper or something that if they're underground and they're kind of hidden and you love their style and they're amazing, and then they become mainstream and they kind of start changing to more appeal to a mainstream audience, and you're just like, they lost it. And they do sometimes. That initial appeal that those artists have when they were undiscovered is gone when they become big, because now they're just trying to, and you could understand they're doing what they need to for the bags, for the money, but you know, sometimes you wish some of the creativity was still there in a mix with it. Uh, but it's kind of the same thing that can happen with things like video games or movies that are niche or underground and then blow up and become mainstream. You're afraid that they're gonna just pander to the audience and just not be successful. And that was an initial worry with Monster Hunter because they specifically talked about this game being something that is going to be better for the audience that hasn't been a part of Monster Hunter that hasn't been a part of the Monster Hunter journey up until this point. However, after going through, watching the videos and stuff that talk about all of the small quality of life updates and the big changes they've done so far, it's not often I see something where I'm like, basically everything is good. It's like, I can get behind all of this. There's definitely some stuff they did that makes things easy. I won't even say easier. It's more that there's things they had in that either added artificial difficulty or, they maybe were experimenting with, and the hardcore audience, me included, loved it. But it wasn't really necessary. Like, say for instance, there's this one mechanic they had called paintballing, where you would literally throw a paintball at, because the game it's called Monster Hunter. You're literally hunting giant ass monsters. It's so fun. When you found a monster, you throw a paintball at it, so that if the monster ran away, you could track it again on your map. However, pretty much all monsters would rub the paintball off, some faster than others, and it's very easy to just get lost in hunting this monster, and then you don't realize it rubbed the paintball off, it flies away, and then you look at your map and you're like, fuck, and there's like 5 places it could be. It moves around when you move around, so you literally can spend 10 real life minutes searching for this fucker. And it was just annoying. So now they changed it with this mechanic where they call scout flies, which name doesn't really matter, but basically it's this mechanic where monsters leave clues around, like they'll leave footprints or scratches or like mucus and stuff on trees, and then you literally use that, and you have these flies that take those tracks or those clues and Scooby-Doo their way around the fucking forest to find this thing. It's really cool. It's really cool. So, and it's a better mechanic, because it's one less thing. You worry about it, but it's more fun to actually go out tracking and hunting the monster than it's like, oh yeah, let's throw this paintball, and I literally just have to regularly throw a paintball every now and then, just so So, I don't know. I love all the quality of life fixes, and I wish a lot more games were comfortable with doing those quality of life fixes as opposed to, and doing some big changes too, but they really made the game better for the mainstream audience by understanding what was wrong and annoying with the game and then fixing it. So yeah, it's just, I'm not sure, I love, please give me feedback on this episode. I'm pretty much wrapping up at this point now. I was planning to talk about multiple topics this episode, but again, I somehow managed to spend pretty much the whole episode just for, well, it technically wasn't just microtransactions. I did touch on some areas with gaming, my history with gaming, and kind of with apps and that kind of stuff. But I would like some feedback as to how do you think this is? Do you think it's good having essentially one episode focused on one topic, and I just dive into, and this isn't really my deep dives into stuff yet. I'm really just, talking and discuss. I really kind of want to start building a discussion around this stuff and see what you think about it. But what do you think? Should I talk about it like this, or should I try to compress the idea into more shorter bits and then fit in multiple topics per episode? Because for instance, well, I'll just actually talk about it the other episode, but what I was going to talk about was, which is actually really cool. I definitely think I'll probably, maybe there'll be the whole episode. I didn't think this was going to be the whole episode, so I'm definitely surprising myself. Yeah, maybe I like talking more than I thought. Yeah, it's gonna be intelligence in animals, and that's because there's this post I saw on Reddit that talked about how apparently apes are not able to ask questions, and they don't really consider the fact that other apes might know things that they don't know. I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'll dive into that for the next episode. But yeah, that was my thoughts on microtransactions. Let me know what you think. Please give me feedback on the episodes. My production is probably gonna be terrible at first. Give me some feedback. I think that's what is gonna be. I'll probably just put this at the beginning or ask at the beginning of the podcast from now on, because I don't know if people are actually gonna listen the full hour and a half. Jesus, I fucking ramble. But should I have some background music or something going? Is it just too cut and dry listening to, especially because I don't have the good mic in yet? I'm actually gonna order one. Probably will come in next week. I don't know what episode I'll be on, but maybe just at some point randomly you'll just notice the audio will just be way better, because I'm literally recording on a gaming headset right now. It's doing a job, but it's, I could definitely do a lot better. So let me know, just feedback. What would you like to see improve? What would you like to see me do? And how do you feel the talks are with, or just the discussions are with these topics? Would you like to see me bring up a lot more information, a lot more details, or do you like a lot of the anecdotal stuff, a lot of the research? And I really haven't gotten to do it that much yet. It's kind of what I want the podcast to be around, is the logical side of things. I feel I have a very interesting way of breaking down topics and logically approaching them and what the implications could mean from what I learned from them. And I've pretty much just been rambling. So I'll see if I can start fitting in some talks about that, or just start talking about what I feel personally, my objective opinion based off of the information that I have and research, that kind of stuff. So thanks a lot for listening to the Deion Farrington podcast. I'm your host, Deion Farrington, and I will see you next time.